If you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. We have been following your story for some time now, and one of the things that I know is I don't like Chitwood. He is a monster to me, and that's the way he always has been. A lot of people love this guy, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, swear to him and what he does. He's very hard on criminals that have been innocent until proven guilty. And a lot of my viewers are going to wonder why you're sitting here. And I've been to your court cases. I've been to the steps of these courthouses watching a little 11-year-old boy face the criminal justice system with all the force behind it. And that little boy, Kingston has...
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Kingston has grabbed a hold of me. When he came up and he gave me the handshake and like almost like a side hug and all that, and he's like, thank you for helping me and being here. Tell me what happened to this little boy that draws in a notepad space. He draws bicycles, rockets, the planet Earth, dolphins. I think I saw everything. And I have a copy of that. You'll see it on the screen here. What did Kingston do that got him so involved with this criminal justice system that they wanted to put him away for essentially a long time, maybe a couple years? 11-year-old.
He accepted a FaceTime call from 3 other kids on September 15th.
Yeah.
3 kids I've never heard of. They've never been to our house. We later found out they were all doing room tours, and Kingston was showing off his airsoft toys that were given to him by a man in our neighborhood. We went to a community yard sale and we bought a couple Nerf guns, and Kingston was showing interest in the airsoft toys that the man had.
Yeah.
And as they were getting in the truck, the guy came up with the big tote and he was like, here buddy, you can have them. Most of them don't work. A lot of them were just pieces to airsoft guns. So we took them. That was over the summer, so a couple months prior to all of this. But any 11-year-old little boy was showing off and excited to have these things. Had his grandpa's World War II memorabilia, little knives, swords, samurai swords. Got off the phone. One of the little boys, we'll call him the bully, started a group chat with 32 kids between 2 different local middle schools, trying to scare these kids into thinking that my son was going to commit a mass shooting. He wrote things in the text message like, next school shooter ahead, twins got a Glock, horrible things.
I did see those text messages. Yeah, and I'm thinking of the same thing. Something recently happened to my daughter. The same, very similar, but it was more of a bully situation rather than, since she's homeschooled, they don't know what school she goes to. When I first heard about that, I remember being 20 years old, maybe 20, something like that, and I was playing video games. And you would get online with these kids on the internet that are faceless, nameless, and they know no consequences, right? And they would do a thing called swatting. And I don't know if you know what that term is or not, but it's basically what happened from what I've read and what I've seen, and then subsequently what happened to this kid that did these complaints or these lies. They will say, hey, we're playing a video game with this guy. He lives here, and it sounds like he has someone locked up in their closet. That requires a response from law enforcement. Usually, a hostage situation will bring a whole slew of people out, a SWAT team. And they catch it happening on the video games. And they catch it while you're here, boom, 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 police, get on the ground. Because they come in on these exigent circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's what I think happened to Kingston. I really think that's what this was. And you have the evidence and you have the final judgment of what happened in this case to essentially prove that. Mm-hmm. But what I wanted to find out is when I saw the photographs of, like you said, the World War II memorabilia, they're up on the screen, and I saw the airsoft stuff, they have the orange tips on them. Mm-hmm. Your son didn't ever modify those. He didn't break those off to make them look real.
And the boy in the text messages said no orange tips, real guns.
And that's what he said, yeah.
Yeah.
What does What is a room tour? Have you learned what that is? Is that just where you like show off what you got?
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, and the other kids, said they had done the same thing, that they were showing off their rooms.
Yeah. What does Kingston normally do for fun? What is he about?
Oh, he loves being outside. He loves horses. He loves going to the beach. He volunteers at my cousin's veterinary clinic. He absolutely loves animals.
He volunteers at a vet clinic?
He picks up trash on the beach. He's been recognized on TikTok for finding the most trash here in New Smyrna. He is an incredible little boy.
Yeah.
He's never been in any trouble. He's never lied. He's never been grounded. He's perfect.
Yeah, and that's hard as an 11-year-old. I get my daughter, she has an attitude some days. And whether the fear was in him with the court and he came up, but no one told him to come up. He saw us there and he walked up to us and was so nice and respectful. I look at him and I see it's innocence that is just manipulated, where he was allowed to get on this call, do this tour, and they tell him like, yeah, I'm your friend, I'm your buddy, yeah, I'm your buddy, but they all had the ulterior motive to say, we're gonna get this kid, because they may feel like he's weaker than them, something like that. And usually someone that is artistic like he is a little bit more quieter, and these bullies hone in on people like that. I've seen it all the time. My daughter's the same way. And as I was mentioning, just recently, she has a friend that comes over here, and she's like 9 months older, maybe a year older, and they got on the phone somehow or another. They were talking, and this girl sent my daughter's, she had a Google Voice number, so she sent the Google Voice number to her other friend, and the other friend called her and says, I know where you live. Like, this is what they did. They were bullying. They were starting this process. And Harper's the same way. She's quiet. She's not as outspoken as this girl is, and this girl has an attitude. And they go, I know what cat you have. Your cat is named this and that, and your backyard, you have a slack line back there. That's because that other girl came over and helped out. I see this happening more than ever. And one of my biggest problems is with what happened with yours is it was a political motive game, and that's all I can think of. Election time was there, and what can you do but tug on the heartstrings of families? I'm tough. I'm not going to let your kids get killed. And what I saw with your case is that exact same thing. It may not be true. It may not, but it's what I felt.
Agree.
Yeah. So Kingston being what he is, there was something else. Didn't he get recognized by the students in school? He was like an A student or something like that. There was something. Tell me what happened with that. You'll remember better.
At his previous school at Enterprise, yeah, he's always been on honor roll since he was in kindergarten. Yeah, and
he was recognized by the school or something like that, or a teacher?
Yeah, he's been recognized. He was asked to be a tutor at school. He's just tons of awards. I could give you a folder full of awards he's been presented from school.
And before we get into the meat and potatoes of what happened during the time that he was in jail, it was a long period of time. But how is he doing now? Is he good? Is he okay?
He's okay.
Yeah.
He has. He still doesn't sleep in his bedroom. He sleeps on the couch every night. He's afraid to go in his room. He's trying to get better.
Have you done anything like rearrange, give him a new bed, do anything like that? Paint it? Something to change.
We tried cleaning his room. We attempted to get him to like hang out in there more. We got him the 3D printer, and he'll go in there and he'll print stuff, but he doesn't spend time in his room. He won't sleep in his bed. He sleeps on the couch every night. Yeah,
that's a tough thing. Probably being woken up. I think they came to your house at 4:30 in the morning. He hasn't gone back to that school, or did he go to the next?
Homeschooling him.
Homeschooling, yeah. And it's tough on you. That's hard, I imagine. We do it. I say we. My wife does it. It's very difficult to trust someone else when you can't supervise them.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's what happened in this case, where he has a cell phone. I imagine is that what he has?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah. And once you do that, that is a portal inside of you and your home. That's a lot of the reason why we have so much trouble with marriages and families and all that, because everybody has access to you then. And then when it's unrestricted access, like what happened here, you have bullies and you have people that take advantage of it. Where these airsoft guns were given to him, and people are saying like, oh, why would you let him have that? My kids have Orbeez guns. They have airsoft guns. My daughter has a BB gun. She's 10. We go out in the back and shoot because we have a decent amount of property back there.
His 9th and 10th birthday, we went to the airsoft field. That was what he wanted to do for his birthday. That's where we had his birthday parties. I mean,
So he liked playing airsoft.
yeah.
This wasn't nothing abnormal. This is
Right.
just like what kids were. Were there other kids that were there that his age playing?
Oh yeah. Hundreds of kids.
And that's what they made him a monster. And I say they, Chitwood and the media and the justice system made him a monster for what was normal. Let me talk to you about the 4:30. I think it was like 4:30 in the morning.
4:09.
4:09 in the morning. Let's take a look at this video really quick, and we'll talk about that.
And what we would like to do is one of the kids, or a few of the kids said that Carlo was showing some guns that he had in his room.
Yeah, it's like fake little toy guns.
Airsoft guns or something like that. That's what we assumed. Just to do our due diligence and to end this threat, we would...
He made the threat, or someone else made a threat?
It's a big rumor mill with 32 something students between Creekside and Silver Sands Middle School, and everything's kind of pointed us to all this information and this and that, and a lot of people don't know this and are unsure about that and the whole 9 yards. Obviously, I don't know if you guys follow the sheriff's office on Facebook or if you guys have seen the news since Thursday. I mean, we have had a slew of these types of threats going on, and it's getting to the point where no matter how small or big they may seem, I mean, we're putting everything we have into these just because of incidents like what just happened in Georgia a couple of weeks ago. So that's kind of the grand scheme of things right now. We don't really know like definitive anything. We've been going house to house to house since 5:30, checking, all these rooms and everything like that, talking to all these kids, making sure the firearms aren't left out in people's houses. And now we're here. So we just wanted to obviously go over that stuff with you. The big thing for us, importance wise, is first and foremost, obviously, with your guys' consent, hopefully go in and look through his room for any type of, firearm, and if they're the airsoft one's great, we can kind of prove that. And at the end of the day, get a little bit of clarification from, Kingston, is his nickname. That's what he goes by. Okay. That's what we're looking to do.
You're more than welcome.
I have a form to sign, regarding the consent.
When you're woken up at 4:09 in the morning, what's going through your head?
My heart was racing. The dog was barking, going crazy. Went to the front door. The Volusia County Sheriff's was out there. Said that there was a threat mill between two schools, 32 kids, which goes back to that text message with 32 children. Said that they were just there to make sure that the airsoft guns were, in fact, toys, and that they would be out of our hair. They were there until they put my son in handcuffs at 7 o'clock in the morning.
They put your son in handcuffs after seeing the photos that they shared, airsoft guns. They put him in handcuffs after lying to you and saying that we'll be out of your hair. I mean, they technically, I guess they were. They left and they took your son with them. They didn't have a warrant.
No.
They walked up to that door, and the exact words that you hear on here, we don't know what we have. It's a big rumor mill between the two schools. Their case in that instance right there, whether they were lying to you or not, tells me that they didn't have anything. And I think there's an audio from one of the body cameras that an officer was on a phone. Do you remember that one? Do you remember what he said in that?
I believe it was, Captain wants us to charge him with a written threat. How do we do that when we don't have one?
Isn't that amazing? A written threat that they're claiming that in this is a FaceTime call. These kids do a room tour, entrap him, and get him to write some names down. And those names were written they were written in that same notepad, is that right? So I have you flipping through this, and it is, for that age there, I watched my daughter draw. She's doing pretty good, but they're exceptional. They're innocent. They're not anything that shows anger. It shows like almost like he wants to be in science and in nature and doing something like that. It doesn't show a written threat. I mean, if I wrote a written threat to you, if I'm looking at you right now and says, when you leave here, and I write this down, when you leave here, you better watch your back, okay? And I hand it to you. That sounds like a written threat. But if I were to change that and say, write your name down, I write Kingston's name down, I write your husband's name down, and maybe I write your mom's name down and hand it to you. What threat is that?
Yeah.
And what brings that into putting a kid in handcuffs, taking him to jail at 4:09 in the morning, and running him through the system? But it didn't stop there, right?
On the way there, we left the house. I thought I would be able to go get him. I didn't ever think that he would end up spending 12 days in there. On the way to go there, my sister was in the back seat and let out a scream and showed me the phone. And Chitwood had perp walked him and put it on TikTok.
His face and all.
And we later found out that he sat in the back of the cop car for 3 hours in handcuffs while the deputy driving him was shaving his face before he was on camera for this perp walk. Which is absolutely disgusting.
That video that I saw the deputy shaving while he was driving, your son was in the back.
Been sitting in the back for 3 hours waiting to do this perp walk video.
So they had to organize it.
Yeah.
Chitwood lives here in Port Orange somewhere, but they had to get up, get themselves ready, and say, hey, when are we going to be there? We need to get someone here that can film this. We need to bring it here. 3 hours. I have never had an arrest. I don't know if you know, I'm a former police officer, and I have never had an arrest that took 3 hours. None of them. None of them. The kids, when we get those arrests for the kids, we want them in and out. We don't want to have them there, and we don't want to hold them because we had a policy that says you couldn't arrest for under 12 years of age. And that was just our policy. I just remember it because we had that. A kid had a knife, and unfortunately one of the other officers got in trouble for it, but he stuck the child in the back of the police car to not handcuff, but just in the back of the police car to scare him. We got in trouble for that. We, meaning the officer that was on there on the shift, because the parent complained, why do you have my kid in handcuffs? Well, he had a knife and he threatened someone with it, and I think he was like 9 or 10 years old. It was a pocket knife. But that's what we do to children. We have to protect them, and we don't incarcerate them and then violate their 8th Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment. And that lives with him for the rest of his life now, I would imagine. But inside the Department of Juvenile Justice, I was told that something else happened in there. Can you tell me what happened while Kingston was there that you know about, or what he told you?
God. He was tormented. There was a gang fight with like 20 different kids. He was in there with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. There was a 21-year-old serving juvenile time behind bars that was locked in his pod.
Okay.
Yeah. Little boy had peed in their bucket of ivory liquid soap. I guess before they shower, you have to get a little plastic cup and you go get your soap and then go into the bathroom. Boy had peed in their soap. He had a Satanist as a cellmate. The kid was 12 years old. I think that they were supposed to only be in the cells with kids their own age. The boy had wrote on the walls like "All Hail Satan," and would take the cross upside down and hold it in Kingston's face. And once he had access to it and could get to the cross, he said he took it and he put it above his bed and he slept with it. And he took toothpaste and stuck toilet paper to it to cover up the stuff that the boy had written on the wall.
So they don't offer any protection there.
No, we found 3 shanks and turned them in to the supervisor, the guards. My mom flew down here, was allowed to go visit, and the sergeant had pulled my mom and I to the side and said that he would come get Kingston out in the mornings, take him out to the rec yard to go pick up trash, let him clean the cafeteria, sweep, anything to get him out of there because he knew that he didn't belong in there.
And that's what a guard said?
The sergeant.
The sergeant. Do you remember his name at all?
No.
It's okay.
Not him. I do remember Van
Yeah.
was really nice, and he would bring him Kit Kats and hand sanitizer. Was really nice to him.
Yeah.
Kingston still talks about him to this day. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I'm sorry to elicit these. You know, it's tough because you're reliving
Horrible.
it. And I was told, I don't know, maybe you can reflect this, but you were on the phone with Kingston, and one of the guards or someone I thought had stuck him in front of the TV and made him
The
watch.
first day he was there, and told him he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Showed him himself up on the news, and told him he would spend the rest of his life in prison for this.
Is he in prison now?
No.
So do you, I think that sounds like cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Has the media reached out to you or anything like that for your side of the story when they did these?
We couldn't go home for the first 3 days that this happened because our house had media, and we ended up staying at my in-laws' house. But after Kingston was released, I got a phone call from the Washington Post, and they wanted to interview us. I told them everything, you know, after Kingston was released, which I'm sure we'll get to that. And I was given the body camera, the discovery packet after 50-something days. And we realized another little boy had admitted to all of this. And I had all of the proof. I showed that to the Washington Post. They did an article on how detrimental these types of things can be to children, minors. They didn't really focus on Kingston's innocence. But yes, we did do an article with the Washington Post. I did a interview with Inside Edition, but they refused to air it because I wouldn't allow them to use the body camera footage of them physically arresting him inside of our house, which was not something I wanted circulating the internet for
Absolutely.
my mom, my grandma, for anyone to see.
Right. And they can't even get that either because they redacted. It's not releasable in Florida. So with all this being said, I watched a lot of the media here locally, and I didn't see a fair and balanced report.
No.
And I learned that the media here, and I have some video that says that, yeah, they don't do bad stories on the police departments because they need those stories. They set it on camera. Like you were mentioning, Kingston, he's 11, gets trapped into a phone call with kids. They do a room tour. The next thing you know, a couple days later, cops are at your house. And it hit me pretty strong. And where I run into trouble with this so much is that finding that when Kingston had these guns, he had never brought them to school. He had never done anything with them. Was convinced or coerced to write names down in a notepad. And then he's charged with written threats. Kingston was bullied by this kid, and then you told me that he was arrested, like 2 weeks later?
12 days, yeah.
The
The state released Kingston, and they arrested the boy that, sent out these text messages.
Yeah, he's like the ringleader of the bullying, essentially. And when he did this, when he does get arrested, do you remember what he was arrested for?
So the day that Kingston was released, we had a huge party. We had probably 60 people at our house, and Kingston and a bunch of kids were in the pool. A friend of mine walked up to me and she said, "Look, they just perp walked another kid." And when she showed me the phone, I was like, "Oh my God, that's the kid that was on the phone." And I was like, "I wonder if they're connected. Like, I wonder what," I was like, "Something's going on here. There's more to this story." In fact, the last time we had visited Kingston, he had buried his head in my lap. He cried every time we went to visitation. But specifically this last time we got to visit, you could just tell he mentally was just wore out. It was dragging, like really weighing on him.
And this is like the 11th day. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know he was going to get released the next day. But I remember picking his head up and telling him, like, "We're going to get the people that did this to you." And he said, "Who, Salvador?" Because we had never had a chance to even hear his side of the story, like talk about anything. So when he said that, and then I saw the perp walk video the next day of Salvador, the boy that was eventually arrested, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy."
But it didn't stop, right?
No.
Your charges didn't stop.
The charges had never been filed. Charges weren't filed for 50-something days. I had to demand for the state to file charges on Kingston in order for me to get the discovery packet. They did not want to release the body camera footage to me.
So this kid, from what I remember, he was he was charged with like false report of a school threat or something like that.
Falsifying a police report and terrorist threat for a mass shooting.
Yeah. So this is evidence that to you that he did this to Kingston, trying to get the same thing done to him, and now he's reporting this. But you're telling me they didn't file charges while your son was in jail for 12 days?
No.
How do you hold someone hostage in jail?
They interviewed this boy before they came to our house. So the police department, the sheriff, the cops knew that this boy made this up before even coming into our house. This child admitted that he did this because he knew school shootings were a hot topic on YouTube.
And he
admitted to this before that was the last person that they interviewed before they came to our house. So at 3:00 in the morning, they were at this little boy's house, and he admitted he made all of this up.
And that's where he was interviewing him on the porch.
Yes.
Sitting there.
Yes.
Okay. So this is what I don't understand. So you haven't had charges filed against you. The state attorney has
until December. This happened. He was arrested in September.
And October, November, December.
I have the emails demanding the state to press the charges. I want the discovery packet. I wanted the body camera footage.
Did you go into court on your own, or did you hire an attorney?
We hired an attorney in the beginning, the day that this happened.
Do you remember his name? I know his face, but it slips my mind. He's a councilman.
Don Dempsey.
He's a commissioner with the Volusia County. County.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how that's not a conflict of interest, because if he shows that the sheriff's office did something wrong, that puts them in liability for an unlawful arrest. And how did this guy end up getting into your case? Do you know him?
A friend of mine. I used to work for him and his wife at a comedy club in DeLand years ago.
Dempsey was okay. Do you ever talk to him now or anything like that? No. He hasn't reached out afterwards. Okay.
No.
Yeah, because in when I attended the court hearing, that was the first time I believe I met you there, and I noticed something pretty disturbing about him. He was just absent of confidence, and he had sweat profusely coming from him. And I overheard a conversation with him when he came out, and you were in there trying to get your son out of jail. Because it was now, I think this has been like 8 days or something like that or so, maybe the court case. Whatever it was. 1 day is way too long. But I remember overhearing him saying, if you want to roll the dice. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
And that's something he said. My camera was going. I have the audio because you guys stepped into the other room over there. But he was wet from head to shoulder, like with sweat. I don't know why. And I don't know if it was nervous or if what was going on with him. But because I saw him in Astor at another event where he was speaking in front of a large crowd, he didn't have that same feeling. He was also not wearing a jacket, but those courtrooms, I was cold. I was sitting in there and I was cold. I think, he's not your attorney anymore, right?
No.
Okay, so they're going to, with attorney-client privilege, he was saying it out in public. From what I heard, he says, well, if you challenge this, they're going to keep him in there for the full time, right? I don't know what attorney would do that. Any attorney that I've worked with, any attorney them, they give you the warning and the cautions, but also when they have the evidence that your son doesn't do this, they're there to fight for you. And I don't think there was a fight there. I emailed him to tell him to give you your money back that he charged you. Never responded. You can't battle the own county that you have a fiduciary responsibility to later on say well, we have to vote on this lawsuit because she's going to sue us. So I'm not saying he did, but he could have guided you down a path that was least resistant to the county so that you don't get a lawsuit against them. Maybe, I don't know. That's a possibility that anybody could look at and say, well, if you're a commissioner, you're going to have to vote on this. You don't want to burn the county to the ground with an 11-year-old in jail. Did you have any other apprehension about that? When you were
I didn't even know any of that he was a part of the committee or anything until after we had let him go and just went with a public defender.
Yeah. And the public defender apparently did a better job than anybody else has, and they help. Did you, like, when he told you that, what was your feeling when he was like, if you challenge this, they're gonna probably keep him in there?
I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It was very confusing. It was a lot, but I knew that I had to take that chance.
Yeah, 'cause you want to give up on your child?
No, I'll never.
Most parents will die for their child. They'll do anything they can for that child because they're there to protect them. And I saw that in you. I saw that in the people that attended. I saw that in people that came from out of state, the people that rallied around you guys, that they were there to protect him. What happened after that when you did challenge it?
They ended up releasing him after, the day 12. From what we were told, the state attorney was reviewing body camera footage and found probable cause to arrest Salvador. So I'd actually gone to Don Dempsey's house that last visit that I had saw Kingston, and his spirits were just really low. He got excited and he said, "Mommy, I had a dream last night that I got a Bernese mountain dog and named her Honey," and he just lit up talking about that.
Yeah.
So that night I went home, started researching, trying to find a Bernese mountain dog puppy. Like, how can I repair and bring long-term happiness and make his little dream come true?
Yeah.
So that next morning, I went to go take my brother-in-law the money for the puppy. I found one over in Tampa. And after I did that, I went to the lawyer's office just to stop in. And the paralegal, Don's assistant, handed me a piece of paper from the state listing 6 reasons on why Kingston should be released, and that he was getting out probably the next hour or so. And I just started screaming.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was truly happy.
But they didn't have anything to hold him on. They said they just had
I'd
rumors.
still not even filed charges at that point.
But you had a phone conversation with the paralegal, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And tell me, like, what happened on that conversation with the paralegal that led you to further feel like this is just out of control?
She had called one night at 9:00 at night and said that Don had gone to a committee meeting and talked to, I believe his name was Brian Henderson, and I'm not sure what his role is in Volusia County, but he's
the
kind of right up there.
Second in command.
Yeah, and she just said that, he was very upset with the way Chitwood had handled this, that it wasn't okay.
When did the charges get filed?
Mid-December.
And why? Do you know why?
Because I had demanded for them to press charges and release the body camera footage. They just weren't pressing charges. But I wanted to see the body camera footage. I wanted to see the proof, and I knew there was more to this story.
So that's what happens when you say, "I want the body cameras." They'll say, "Well, we can't give them to you because there's an active criminal investigation." Because they don't have charges. They're in limbo between that, and you have to physically tell them to charge your child so that you could get it. And I remember someone saying, if you do this, if you want this body camera, they're actually going to put these charges against your child. And that's what they did. So demanding these charges, right? You begged for them. You had to literally beg for them so that you could see this. You found that he's exonerated, or he's innocent, but they didn't drop the charges, right? From what I remember, they reduced them.
That's where I'm confused, and I'll have to go back and look at all the court paperwork and stuff. But yeah, and in fact, I went and to the lawyer's office one day, and he said that he had spoke to the state attorney, and she was considering reducing the charge to a misdemeanor of disrupting a school function, which I was excited for because I knew that never disrupted school. So I figured that would be easy to get thrown out, which that didn't happen. But yeah, they ended up filing written threats for mass shooting were his charges.
That was it. And so when they do this here, there's still no evidence that he did that, and
Right.
There's evidence that it was a joke. There's evidence that another kid made this up, and there's evidence that there's a group text that's like, you can see that there's like bullying in there, and you can see that there's like these wannabe thugs in there. They're just little punks that you can see the way they're talking.
Oh, it's disgusting the way
Yeah.
the kid was talking.
So there's no evidence still.
Right. No.
And then we go through court a little bit more. I went to another hearing, and at that point, the I guess the feeling is that now they're going to start going through this and putting you through a trial, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened between then and there? Do you remember?
It's all so foggy. I'm trying to remember
Yeah.
what court date was what. But yeah, we wanted to go through with trial because we knew he was innocent. We knew that, we had all of the proof. And then it got to a point where we found out that the judge had never been to trial before. That if he was found guilty, although we knew that they didn't have the elements to make up this charge, the state attorney said that she would fight for the maximum, which was 36 months in a program like up in, I want to say Pensacola or something like that. And
3 years. We can't go by months anymore. That's what they do to bring it down. But that is 3 years. Still no evidence.
Right.
And then, did they offer you a plea deal as well?
I'm not sure exactly what it was. It was.
It was something like that.
Yeah, for us to do, it was called a JDAP program. It would result in the charges being completely dismissed, no trial, and he would have to do, it was a list of things which we ultimately ended up agreeing to. I asked Kingston, I sat him down in bed and I asked him if he wanted to take this to trial, and he was just worn out, tired, and said no, he didn't want to do it anymore. So we agreed to do the JDAP program, which was a mental health evaluation. He passed with flying colors, and 25 hours of community service, which they told me I could sign off on because he was 11 years old. He wouldn't even be allowed to do community service in any type of organization, which he already, does yard work all the time, helps around the neighborhood, picks up trash on the beach, all that good stuff. So that's what we ended up doing.
And then after that, was there mention of something about putting him in a facility, and then if he was... We don't know when this facility will be available, and he'll have to remain incarcerated until that facility is available. Is
Yes.
that so? It was a 36-month treatment.
They would take him from the courthouse that day, though, and make him sit and wait for a bed. And they said that he would have to sit. He could wait up to 9 months.
So you'd have 9 months plus the 36 months treatment. That's what they do. So is that why you took the deal?
Yeah.
Okay. But was there any other things that you had to do part of this deal that you had to let it go or anything like that?
No, he built a little mechanical hand. It was just 200 pieces. It was a Christmas present, and they used that as one of his art projects.
Okay.
And they had him write a letter on how this has affected him.
Yeah.
Which he wrote a story about it. But yeah, they said they actually sent in the paperwork to the state attorney weeks before we even completed it because they knew that this was a joke. They said that.
So they just dropped the charges on their own.
This was through the program.
Oh, the
So they
program, okay.
signed off on everything before, before the time. I think it was supposed to be like a 90-day program, but he had ended up completing everything in, 5-6 weeks.
Right.
So they filed the paperwork early through the state. And then the state are the ones that said that they are filing the Nolle Pros, the no longer wish to pursue. So that's where we're at now.
So they've essentially just dropped the charges. No prosecution any further, and any communication with them at all?
No.
No. How do you feel like now? I know it's probably a relief getting that done, but just sum it up for me. What do you feel that even you had to do that stuff? Were you satisfied with it? Do you feel like you had no other choice? How do you feel about having
I wanted
to
to fight. I wanted to fight for his justice. I wanted to fight. I want the world to know that he was innocent, but I didn't want to put him through anything else. I knew it would still result in him not being charged with anything.
Yeah.
I knew it would be easier on him mentally. I just didn't want to put him through anything else.
And that's just going back to protecting him. Gosh. And, in every court case that I see or hear, and even when I was trained, they told you, stack them up, make the charges. That way that the state attorney can go through and say, hey, if we got you for I don't know, felony retail theft, but you also resisted arrest because there's a victim of the felony retail theft, but the officer came there, we can stick this on it, drop the felony, get him on the misdemeanor, and they play this chess game with you. And by the time that you're done there, who has more money? Do you think that the state has more money, or do you have more money?
The state.
Yeah, so what can they do? They can burn you up and down until you have no more money left to fight. So this plea deal, you felt like you had to take it for your son. You didn't have, you had a fight in you. I saw when I was in court that there was fire behind you because of this. And it just seems like torture after torture, knowing that there's nothing there, but they have to save their face because if they say, well, we don't have any charges here, it would fall back on the sheriff. And even though they're two separate branches of the government, executive and judicial, they always work together, and it's not supposed to be like that, and they do. What else would you like to add? Is there anything else? I know this is your opportunity to tell this story. I wanted you to get out here.
One of my biggest issues with all of this is, like, I don't even know if you know this. The whole reason we moved to Port Orange was Kingston was on a kill list at Enterprise. March 31st of 2023, I got a phone call from the principal at the school saying that Kingston was in the front office. He needed to be picked up, that there was a death threat on campus, a written threat with his name and his name only. I started panicking. I was crying. I was working in New Smyrna. I had my fiance go pick him up because he was closer to him.
Yeah.
And she said that it was being investigated. It wasn't being taken lightly, that they would follow up with me.
Where's the report?
I had to demand for Volusia County Sheriff's Department to file a report.
To do the report?
Yes, to do the report. They never even... She contacted a guardian at a school in Orange City. So when she said it was under investigation, I assumed with the Volusia County Sheriff's Department. So I went to the Sheriff's Department to get the police report, and the woman at the front desk said, we don't have anything.
So they never did one?
No. So she said, you need to get Volusia County out there, get a car out there ASAP. So I went out there. Principal met me out front. We went in with 2 deputies, filled out a report. They ended up closing the case and said that they didn't think that the child understood the gravity of what they wrote.
How old was he?
10 years old. It was a year prior to this incident with Kingston.
Yeah, I do have that case number on a card there.
I have the report. I ended up going to the Volusia County Sheriff's Department a couple months ago.
No arrest?
No arrest, no.
No charges?
Nope.
Just
Nothing.
a simple report?
Yep, and it was an actual, it said kill list, and it said his name only, and it was written on school campus.
List.
It said kill list with my son's name only. So because they failed to do protocol, stop school in that moment, Volusia County School Board offered us a Hope Scholarship to any school in Volusia County.
Yeah.
And the #1 school was here in Port Orange. So that summer, we moved to Port Orange to put him in the best school in the county in hope something like this wouldn't happen, and Volusia County would do their jobs.
And here we are again, and they did it again.
How ironic that they manipulate the situation and drag my son through the mud and broadcast him all over the world.
An innocent little kid.
An innocent angel. Yeah.
Well, we've said a lot, so I'm sorry I got you upset. I know it's emotionally draining, so I know my viewers will appreciate it. I'm gonna put.
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
very much.
it's scary. This is, when they turn on you, you just never know. So, well, guys, thank you for watching this video. Share it out to people, and there will be a link in the description for the people that are involved, as well as some of the body camera that we can release and give out there. The faces are redacted because they are minors, and even though they're charged with crimes, I am going to protect those minors, like the kid that was interviewed and said this was a joke. But take a look at those, and I will see you again soon.